Welcome to This Old App, a podcast about learning, coding, smashing stuff together, breaking things apart, startups, failing, winning, and any other buzzwords we can think of.
All right, Don, how do you go about learning JavaScript?
Okay, so really the way I've been doing it, because really that's been something I've been learning for consistently for the past 3 years, different flavors of it. Tutorials. Wes Boss is one of my favorite tutorial guys when it comes to JavaScript. Stephen Greiner is good. Anthony Alicea is good. Both of those guys are on Udemy, right?
Udemy? I call it
differently. So you're probably saying it properly, but I don't know. But yeah, those guys are great. I think I've looked at a couple things on Pluralsight. And I subscribe to the JavaScript Jabber podcast, and I'll listen to a couple of those as well. Yeah. So in general, that's the fun part about JavaScript is I find JavaScript a lot more approachable to just jump in, try something, and go. I find other languages a little harder to just go with and build something in a weekend that works.
That's interesting. I find JavaScript the hardest, the most difficult of the languages for me to absorb and use in my tech experience. Because I use .NET, I use VB.NET, C#.NET, I use PHP for a while, and then I transitioned to Ruby. Ruby was the easiest. My gosh.
Well, I know exactly why then. All right. All those things you just named, I think, and I come from a completely different background. Okay. Mm-hmm. I come from PHP. I come from, if we're going to go all the way back, I come from COBOL Fortran. Mm-hmm. But the bulk of it was PHP, which is a scripting language, to JavaScript, another scripting language. I find the compiled ones, Ruby and Python, a little bit harder to digest.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Ruby to me it just reads like English, most of the stuff I work on. And I found it easy to absorb, and I learned the different nooks and crannies of it fast. With JavaScript, the whole thing about scope threw me off because I felt like it was just Ruby just handled it, and JavaScript is just all over the place. Mainly because
you had to help me with scope just last week because I completely messed one up.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think Ruby is to me the language that I would recommend people learn. If they said, I want to learn how to code, what's the easiest way to learn? I'd say go down the Ruby path.
But I've heard plenty of people say Python's the way to go. And I would not say JavaScript is necessarily the way to go. It's probably one of those languages like Ruby, like Python, just to go because they'll give you more structure. JavaScript is a little bit more Wild West.
Well, it's but here's the thing, and this is why, like at the Northwestern Coding Bootcamp, we teach JavaScript, full stack, back end, front end. And the reason is it's the most applicable language. Right. If you look on GitHub, if you look at libraries, surveys, anything over the last 5 years, JavaScript has taken this massive leap in the community on the open source side about what the usage is and how much development's going on. And so at the Coding Bootcamp, they've kind of kicked to the curb what's the easiest to learn, and they go, what's the most practical to learn? What's the most applicable language to learn? But I agree, Python is easy. If you can learn Ruby, you can learn Python pretty much just as easy. I would say that Python probably meets that more gray area or middle area of easy to learn and very applicable, because you have the research community is very strong in Python. Definitely on the West Coast and East Coast, you have a very strong community and startups using Python. And that's what you all use for your startup, or your small business now, Aspire EDU. correct?
Yeah.
So going back
who you calling a small business?
Exactly. Back when I knew it to be, it was like only up to my knee at one point. Now it's grown up so tall. You go. I want to go back to how you what tools you're using to learn and why you like what you liked about them. Because there's people out there that are like, how do I get into learning JavaScript? And let's say they don't have access to a boot camp. That's almost a different discussion, is the value of boot camps. If you're trying to do it on your own, how are you doing it and why?
Okay, so I think the answer is the same. I think the answer is, first off, look into the courses that are out there, whether it's on Pluralsight, whether it's on Udemy or Udemy. It's Udemy, whichever it is. And the Udemy courses are usually go on sale regularly. So if you if you go there and it's not on sale, wait. If it's not on sale, contact us and we can probably get you a sale code, because as users we get them all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not an affiliate link. That's just literally we'll just give you a code and we get nothing for it.
Let me change the question. Okay. Why didn't you mention any books?
So books are static. So what's written in a book, that's it. The minute that book's written and edited, nothing in the book will change. So you pick up a book from even Node a year ago, and you'll get the basics, but things have changed.
Yeah.
You pick up a book on front-end JavaScript frameworks, and React will be there with some discussion of Redux, and Angular will be there. Vue won't be there, and Vue's got some growth going on right now. So books are static. I didn't mention blog posts either. I did mention tutorials. Blog posts are good because Google will take you there. So the problem, and it depends on how you use the courses within those course delivery systems. But the problem with the courses is if something doesn't work, if you do it the way they do it and it's not working on your side, you're kind of stuck because you don't understand how you got there. So you don't have the mental tools to troubleshoot it.
Yeah.
So then you got to start Googling, and that takes you into tutorials. And then you find a tutorial you like reading, and you find out it's 3 years old and it's on a different version of Node or React or whatever. And what it's teaching you is slightly different than what you're learning. So it's also true that the videos are static. So everything is static. But I know that a few of those videos have been updated numerous times just to stay current. It's it's impossible to do with print books. If it's an ebook, they will sometimes release updates, but not regularly. And I just find a technical ebook hard to work with. If you're going to give me a technical book, give me the print book. Don't give me the ebook. That is probably just my old man in me.
Well, I mean, I learned .NET and with Rocks, the old yellow and red / orangish books. And I learned all of my .NET through those books, but I would only ever get halfway through them. Because once I got into the weeds of details, it was always like, wow, this use case is taking 20 pages to explain. And I just really realized I just needed someone to tell me in 1 minute what is going on here. And that's when I started to transition to more video media, audible media, because the transfer of knowledge is so much faster from one person to another, even in a recorded setting, than I think a book represents.
And if the person recording is going too slow, there's a little slider to speed them up.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I don't ever watch. I mean, I watch the majority of my videos on 2x speed. You mentioned Stephen Grider, who I will watch all his stuff on Udemy all the time, and right now he sounds like a chipmunk because he is fat. I speed him up, and it's like I don't think I could ever listen to him again on a normal speed because he still speaks at a pace that even at 2x speed, I'm able to absorb everything. But it comes with the video tutorial comes with the added visual. I can see him coding things. I can see him make mistakes and go back. And that he's improved as a teacher because I've watched a lot of his stuff over the last 3 years. And I would say he's improved a lot because he quit editing so much. He would be like, oh, in that last video, I screwed up. Here, I changed something. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, he's just like me. And there's something about that. There's something about that from student to teacher. When I taught my students face to face, they would say, "Oh, you don't really let errors bog you down. You just kind of act like they're normal." And then I felt like that was normal too. And I'm like, yes, exactly. That's how you, as a student, as a learner, you need to feel. I also, for JavaScript, I definitely recommend the Tony Alicea JavaScript, the weird parts. That is by far the video that got me not avoiding JavaScript. I spent a lot of time trying to avoid becoming good at JavaScript, and I really just focused on jQuery to get things done, which was fine. But at the end of the day, when I'm like, I need to learn JavaScript from the ground up, and I needed to start learning Node, Alicea had 2 terrific video series about JavaScript, the weird parts, and then one just about learning Node.js. That I think his style holds your hand, takes you to the side, and explains things. It is long. It is drawn out. It is a number of hours, like days worth of content, really. But it is so worth it. He is so good at explaining. The books, I hear everyone say Donald Concroft, JavaScript, the good parts. I've never warmed up to that book. I've tried to read it 4 or 5 times and I just quit. It's the way the examples didn't jive with me. Jives with a lot of people, didn't jive with me. There's another one called Eloquent JavaScript. I did not like the examples that the author used. And then once I hated the examples, it killed it for me.
Well, let me stop you there for a second. Examples. So when you go and build and are learning using a video or a book or a tutorial, are you following step by step, word for word, line by line what they're building? Or, as I've done sometimes, and it helps me learn faster sometimes, are you building a parallel project using your domain knowledge so that you're actually having to process it? So I'll give an example. With Wes Boss, the latest node was he was building a restaurant review app. Okay. So, which is fine. And I could have followed along, but I was trying to take something that I was interested in. So I built an app for news on college football players. Okay. And I built it using the same starter files he had. I built the same screens he did. I just named them different things. I named the data different things, and it helped it relate it to me a little bit more. So how do you use those?
If I'm going into something not like GraphQL is a brand new technology we'll talk about in the future. If I don't know anything about it, I follow the examples of the video that the tutorial is kind of going with. But if I have some idea of I want to learn this tool to apply to a business domain that I know more about, I will do what you're talking about. I will build my own version of what they are talking about. Now, that comes with a caveat that sometimes I create bugs that I'm not going to have them answer for me on the video. And I have to dig my way out of a hole that I set up myself. And I did that the other night on a Stephen Grider course. I'm like, I can't even ask him a question about this because I'm not doing this the way he's teaching. But when I fixed it, I'm like, oh, I understand this whole thing works better now. This is a React Native deal. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach it. There's a lot of tools out there. There's front end masters. That's another source. If I can think of some others, I'll put them in show notes. But anyway, that was learning JavaScript. We are both now kind of really deep in on this technology, and we're both experienced devs learning it even more. And again, I've taught it and used it for years, but now I would say it's like the stack I'm the most focused on of any, beyond even Rails. So,
and what we'll do is on the next episode, next time on this old app, we'll talk about what we're using it for.
Yeah.
So we both are working on an application that I want to use within construction specialties, but we think has commercial potential that we can sell. So we'll talk a little bit more about the business side of that when we come back next time.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, cool. See ya.
Thanks for listening to This Old App. Show notes and previous episodes can be found on our website at www.thisoldapp.online. Reviews on Apple iTunes are always appreciated and help promote the show. For questions, comments, or things you would like to hear on future shows, please email us at hello@thisoldapp.online. Show music is Guns Blazing by Fab Claxton, licensed by Pond 5. Voiceover work by MeganVoices.com. You'll hear from us soon.